We're live on YouTube. We're live on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us. We are live on YouTube. So we were letting everyone know over on Facebook that we are live on YouTube. Thank you for hanging out with us and coming over to join us if you have. I just came out of a teaching a moment ago with a family member, and we'll get into that in a moment. So I want to put this up and let you know that some things you may see here on the site, there is a fair use law. We can use portions of things that are copyright material, whether it's news, whether it's teaching, whether it's parody. We're not infringing on anyone's copyrights. We can use certain portions of it for educational and entertainment purposes. Even though that we know that it may not be entertainment or educational, we have to say that so that we can use portions of it. And we just want to let you know that you may see some things that is a videotape, a picture, motion picture. It can be a piece of an exhibit or something. There is fair use under the United States trademark infringements. So we're not trying to infringe on anyone's trademarks. We just want to be able to use those things. So now that we have that up, let me say hello, family. How are you? Good to see you. Glad you're here. So, as I said, I just came out of a teaching with a family member, and you know how Israel does. When we get to things start to get deep, people go to sleep. And so I had a family member snoring in my ear as the teaching went forth, and I said, "Hebrew, wake up," and I heard, "Mm-hmm, mm-hmm." So I heard everything he said. I was asleep. Okay, so we're not even going to go into what did I say, what was I talking about. That doesn't matter. The fact of it is that I did my part. I was told to tell it, and I told it. So we were discussing um, the hurricanes and things that are going on around the world. And there's like 6 of them going on out there right now, family. So I would say to you, if you go to ventusky.com, I would bring it up, but after yesterday's fiasco here in the studio, um, it turns out that one of the hard drives, for whatever reason, well, I know the reason, but anyway, it decided to lock up and crash. And because it locked up and crashed, it crashed the entire system twice while we were in the middle of a broadcast. So if you're looking at yesterday's broadcast, you'll see that right around the time in the middle of that, there's a 2 hour video and there's a 1 hour video. We're not going to go that long today. I'm going to try to keep it shorter. Um, but at the end of that 2 hour video, I was talking about Christmas, Christ Mass. And right when I got to that part, the computer crashed. So I did some quick work, um, got it back online, and then we went for that last hour. And I guess kind of rushed through things, and I didn't get as far as I wanted to get, or in depth as I wanted to get, because at that point I was just freewheeling. I had to just freewheel it because all the information that was sitting there and the data that was there was lost. So I wanted to tell you that these hurricanes are going on, and I'm going to spin that into what we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. And we're going to kind of keep it short, get into this, and then get out, okay? So that you can understand the way that we look at things according to Scripture, okay? So again, um, you can have and use your Zondervan Bible Dictionary, because we will utilize that in most cases. Have that handy. Also, I have a Dakes annotated um, Bible here, which is one of the ones that I study with. This is the Rolls Royce of study Bibles. 4 columns down each side of the page. The center columns, the center 2 columns are the actual scriptures with all the study notes on the outside columns. Okay, we have that. We also have the companion Bible. I have this one. I put a cover on it to protect it, but I want you to kind of, if I can get it in the right light, you'll be able to see it. But I brought a light over here tonight, so you might be able to see my face better. But this, because I have the cover on it, and it's a green kind of a cover to protect the binding, you won't be able to see it. But it is the companion Bible, okay, with 142 indexes and appendices in the back, and we use that. We also use the Strong's Exhaustive Concordance, okay. I'm actually going to pull up actually getting a camera that will mount over the top of the books. It's designed so that you can see the pages, because I do have that Strong's in the digital version in eSword. However, as I was telling you before, because we're coming into this truth and because of some of the things that we know, they're changing a lot of the information in the books. So as I was talking to you yesterday, explaining to you about the NIV and NIRV, whenever you see RV on something, that means it's a revised version or revised edition. And since they're revising, not reviving, but revising editions and versions, that means that they're actually changing things. A lot of things, well, they'll use the excuse, well, the understanding is better now, and so we have to revise it in order for people to understand that the thought processes have changed, or we've got more information so we can revise it. What's really happening is the fact that we, the Hebrews, are waking up, and we are looking at the scriptures, the translations that they gave us, because they took our scriptures, rewrote them, put them into books, and then handed it back to us as if it was theirs. Now, for those of you who are new, who don't understand what it is that I'm talking about, what I'm talking about is actually the fact that we are the people of the book, okay? And that I may be able to show this to you. If you can see my mouse on the screen, you may or may not be able to see it. But if not, what you're looking at here are 4 different pictures of the west coast of Africa. Now, those of you who know me and know me well enough that you have sat and talked with me, what I am showing you is a map in the upper right-hand corner, which is a 1647 map, which was done by a cartographer who created this map to show the slave traders where to go to get their slaves. And if you look in that map, it says Kingdom of Judah. KM is Kingdom of Judah. Underneath it, it says or Wida, Whidah, and underneath that it says Slave Coast. Now, as I said yesterday, I want you to understand there was no person of color who created a map and gave it to a European or Portuguese person that says, hey, look, here's a map to show you where to come and get us from. We did not create this map. This map was created in 1647, and it was a map that was used to show them where to go and get their slaves. To the left of that, on that same map, you'll see the LD. I'll get the bigger map and show you that says Gold Coast, okay, and it says Proper Guinea. Next to that is the Slave Coast. So you can see those 2 little countries sitting side by side, the Kingdom of Judah and that Gold Coast and the Slave Coast, okay? So what I did was, the reason why I have that one on the left and that one on the right, both of them at the top, is because you can see where the door of no return is. It's the red dot that has the black center in it. And in it, as you look, you'll be able to see that this is the same exact place on the map. The door of no return is at the bottom of the screen, and at the bottom of the screen you can see it as it sits on the beach, okay, on the right hand side. That is an aerial shot of it, and it is the monument that actually shows that this is where they loaded the boats for the slaves to get on, and they sailed them off to the new country, okay. On the left at the bottom is the city of Ouidah, Ouidah, which is the same as the upper right hand, Whydah, Whidah. You know, over time names do change, but it's the same city. And again, you see the red dot at the bottom with the black dot center in it, showing you that that is where they loaded them onto the boats. Now during this time, that city was not developed. Bottom left hand corner, the city was not developed this way, so they had to march them almost 500 miles through the bush down to that beach and load them up. Now, at that particular place, as they loaded them down there took them down to the beach, I'm trying to see if I ever have it, and I don't think that I do. So I'll have to get it again and show it to you. And so what happens was they loaded them up down on that beach, and they took them off, um, and sailed them off to the New World. Okay. Now, when they did this, um, the Portuguese slave traders and the European slave traders had them in chains and in stocks by their necks. Some of them on ropes, some of them on what am I saying? Some of them on ropes, some of them in chains, some of them in stocks. However, they were going to do it, they actually, took them there. So this is something that we have to continue to be aware of, that this actually happened. This happened, and people would love to have you believe that it did not happen. Um, and we can surely say that it did happen. And because it happened, we can go into what had happened. Now, I am going to load this up for you because I want you to see this. And like in yesterday's crash, we lost this, and I had it up yesterday. So here it is again, and this is on the ground at the door of no return. And you're looking at the monument there, and as you're looking at that monument, you see that those people are in chains. They're in chains, and they're being led off. Okay, now as they're being led off, you see them. This is because it looks like they're coming toward you. There are actual photos of them in the stocks and what the stocks actually look like. Okay, now what those stocks look like when those people are walking away from you is, I'm going to give you two pictures as a matter of fact. So I'm going to load these up, and I'm going to keep, I'll keep hammering these and nailing them home, because people need to know this. And our people need to know this, that this is some things that were done to us. So let me load this up. You guys just hold on with me. Bear with me, because I'm going to load this up for you. Okay, I want you to see this. Let me see, where are they? There's two of them I have here. Here's one. Okay, here's the first one. This first one, this is the dirty one. Okay, this is before they cleaned it up, and because they did a ceremony there to commemorate this, and the president of Ghana came out apologizing for selling us into slavery. And this is the dirty one. Okay, so as you're looking at this one, that picture up above is showing you them walking away from you going down to the beach. Okay, so here's the dirty one. This is what it looked like before they cleaned it up and they did the ceremony. Okay, so I'm going to show you one now that had the clean one that they did as they cleaned it up. And as they cleaned it up, you can actually see the hold on, that's not the one I want you to see. Let me do this again. Hold on. Let me do this again. Where is it? There it is. Okay. So as I said, I had all of these up yesterday before the computer crashed, and the computer crashed. And so now you can see the clean one, and the clean one shows you the actual holes in the posts where they had them chained up to. And as you see across that horizon there, that's where the ships were waiting for them to be boarded, for them to be loaded onto. Okay. Now, as you look at this, I want you to realize that this is where they stole the Hebrews from. Judah is a tribe of Israel that ran out of Israel in 70 AD because Titus Vespasian came through, and this is in scripture and it's in history. This is history you can look up. Came through and sacked Jerusalem. Jerusalem is in Israel, in the area of Judea, okay, where Donald Trump just made Jerusalem the capital of Israel again. This was our capital during that time. In 1647, there were no European, Ashkenazi, long-nosed anybody living on the west coast of Africa, okay? There was not. There was not any European living on the west coast of Africa in 1647 as a culture of people. They came through as European invaders and marauders, and the Ghanaian people and the other people of the area, because that wasn't our home. That's just where we landed. They got warred with us, overtook it, and sold us off to the Portuguese for women and liquor. Go on YouTube and look up the fact that the Ghana president just apologized for selling us to the Portuguese and the Europeans for liquor and women. Okay, so here's the proof. Yesterday I did the same thing and I showed you my DNA. My DNA says that I came from right there. Okay, so I know who I am now. I am not an African American. I am not. They got us from Africa, but they changed our names when we got there and said that we were Negroes. Okay. Then they said that we were colored. Then they said that we were African American. Then they said that we were black. Okay. We keep getting called something we are not, and people keep going along with it. And we have got to get to the point, Mishpachah, that we have got to wake up and realize who we are and come back to who we really are. The top of the screen right there says Obara Bani. That's who we are, a royal people. And it's amazing because all around the world, people know who the Obara people are, except us. Okay? Arabs know who we are. They say, I can show you video after video of Arab people saying, African Americans, Negroes in America, you are the people of the book. It's time for you to wake up and come home. Okay? What happens when we wake up and we come home? When we wake up, the God of Israel listens. When we all cry out with one voice, when we know who we are and we wake up, he starts to do what he does for us because his people have spoken. And the thing of it is that everyone knows what happens when we cry out as a people. Everyone knows except us. Why? Because during the slavery time, we were brainwashed into thinking that we were someone else. It only takes 3 generations for you to lose your culture, your heritage, your language, everything. When Willie Lynch did what Willie Lynch did in the James River, he said, brothers, if we do this right, we'll never have to do it again because this will replicate itself and it will last in perpetuity. That means that you, as a European, would never have to perpetuate the brainwashing ever again if it's done correctly. We'll continue to have the reset done on ourselves. And we, for the last 400 years, have been perpetuating our own reset. That's why our communities are in disarray the way that they are. When we started to wake up and become a community and do what we were supposed to do, we were doing that, but it was being done in a European type way when we had Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. But they couldn't let that happen. So they came in, do the history and look it up. They came in and burnt the whole town down, dropped bombs from the air and burnt it all out. Okay, started killing people, started dragging people through the streets for no reason, just because we were being affluent. Okay, did the same thing in Rosewood. Look it up. They made a movie about it, right? Ving Rhames started it. They made a movie about it. Look it up. So we have to come back to who we are. Okay, but I'm not going there today. I simply just wanted to reiterate that. And every time that I come on, I think I'm probably going to reiterate that because I have this sign up here that says, Welcome Hebrews, Obara Bani, right? That's our flag. Okay, that's who we are. And men, we are supposed to go to Israel 3 times a year. We're supposed to show ourselves in Jerusalem 3 times a year. Now, I'm asking you guys and telling you guys, if you don't know about this, look into it. Go on Facebook and look at pilgrimage to Zion. Okay, catch up with Ashira. Okay, send him a private message, and send him a message on Facebook and ask him to talk to you. But tell him I sent you. Okay, he knows who I am. So this is how we find out who we are, because the Most High is putting people in our way to show us it's time for us to wake up. Things are being poured out. So I was saying that to say, look at Ventus Sky. Ventus Sky is a website. V is in Victor, E-N-T is in Tom, U, Ventu, and then the word sky, S-K-Y, S is in Sam, K-Y.com, ventusky.com. It will open up a page that will show you storms, thunderstorms, On that page, you can see wave heights and wind gusts and all of those things. I would show it to you here now, but because of the software that I'm using that's taking up a lot of the resources, when I bring it on, it's happening in real time. When I bring it on, it makes everything slow down, and I don't want you to miss what I'm doing here. So I'll tell you, the web page site is Ventu Sky. Bring it up, you can watch the storms. Okay, so I'm talking about that to say this, that in the last days, things are being prophesied that are going to occur. Okay, so in those last days, then we have the Messiah saying in Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 21, all the things that are going to occur. Okay, so as we're looking at Matthew 24, okay, then the Messiah is talking about those things that are going to occur in the last days. So we're going to look at Matthew 24, okay, first of all, and then we'll go through, these things. Now, let me see. I think I have that one there, and I can use that one, but I think I'm going to use this one here, just for the sake of argument. So let's go here. Let's look at Matthew. Let's look at Matthew 24. Okay. Let's look at Matthew 24, and we'll talk about this for a moment. Okay. I'm going to bring this up, and I want to, just so everyone can see it, we're going to make it a little bigger. Okay. And since in 1611, I'm going to do this again, just for those of you who don't know, there was no J in 1611. Okay. So there was no such person as Jesus, because we're talking about a Hebrew person, and the Hebrews didn't speak English. So in their language, there was no J. And since I know you don't believe me, I'm going to use a 1611 here real quick, just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. All right. So when we see Matthew 24:1, as you can see in 24:1, now this is a digital copy of a 1611, and they're going to have the J in there. But if you have a hard copy of this Bible, you're not going to see a J. And in the scriptures itself, you won't see the J. So it's I-E-S-U-S. You don't see the J. But just so you know what they're talking about, they put a J at the top to describe what's going on in this passage, that Jesus foretells the destruction of the temple, right? So, but when you read the scripture itself, there is no J there. If you're looking at a hard copy of this Bible, you won't see a J there. And again, we never used Bibles. We had scriptures. We were taken, and our scriptures were taken, and they were translated and rewritten and transliterated and then put into books. We never had books. So in this particular case, we can see that there was no J. This indicates that a person named Jesus never existed. There was never, ever a person named Jesus. Now listen, if you're praying to the Father, he knows that you don't know this. And since he knows that you don't know this, and that you only speak English, I'm not saying that you cannot use the name Jesus, because he knows who you're talking about, and he knows what you're talking about. Okay. Now, it was a difficult thing for me because I was broken. I'm like, what? What do you mean there's no Jesus? And so, he had to work with me and show me, look, I know who you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. But now that we're on the subject, there was no J. So I had to work my way through that. So for those of you who are used to using the name Jesus, continue to use the name Jesus. There is no demonic entity named Jesus. So he knows who you're talking about. But for us Hebrews, when you know better, you do better. When you learn that fire is hot, you don't put your hand in the fire. Okay, so you'll hear me most often say Yeshua, because I know that's his name. Okay, you'll hear me most often say Yahuwah or Yahweh, which is YHWH, which is the Yod He Vod He, in the Hebrew. Okay, so you'll hear me a lot of times use that terminology. Don't be thrown off by it. Okay, you can use Jesus. Okay, just when you understand what it is and you know who he is, then it's just like if you know my name. You wouldn't call me Michael if you know my name. Why would you call me out of my name if you know my name? You wouldn't call me Daryl if you knew my name. Why would you call me Daryl if Daryl is not my name? So that's what I'm saying. It's like once you know his name, you can use his name. Okay, if you know his name. But if you don't know his name, don't be thrown off by the fact that you're using Jesus. Okay, so the terminology can throw you off, but understand that he was not blonde haired, he did not have blue eyes, and he was not European. He did not look like you. He looked like me because his people were Hebrew. Okay, and since I said that, I know that some people are going to have a challenge with that. So let's go over here real quick to the Zondervan Bible Dictionary and understand this, right? And then we'll move on. That Noah had three sons, Japheth, Ham, and Shem. And this is the definition. This is the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary that talks about Ham. Ham, the youngest son of Noah, probably born about 96 years before the flood and one of 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes. Okay, let's identify that. When we were taken as slaves, okay, off the west coast of Africa, right there you see the map. We were taken as slaves off the west coast of Africa. When we came to America, we were notified that we were Negroes. Okay, now listen, at the top of the map, you see, I have to show you the whole map, but you see Groland. That means Negro land. When you look at the whole map, you'll see it says Negro land up there. So they called us Negroes. And some of you Europeans have a special word for us that you use all the time among yourselves. So let's not just pretend like we don't know what we're talking about here. Okay? Let's just get the truth out and let's just put the rubber on the road. Okay? You guys have a special word that you use for us, and don't pretend like you don't know what I'm talking about. Okay? So we were called Negroes. Okay? That's what that was. And so we're looking right here, and the Zondervan says that Ham was the progenitor of the dark races, but not the Negroes. And then they're going to tell you who Ham was the progenitor of. Ham was the progenitor of the Egyptians, the Ethiopians, the Libyans, and the Canaanites, other dark races. Now, did not Christ, was as a baby, was not he sent into Egypt because Herod wanted to kill him? Why? Because Ham was the brother of Shem. Okay, now Ham, these dark races came out of Ham. Okay, Eber came out of Shem. Noah had 3 sons, Japheth, Ham, and Shem. Eber came out of Shem. Abraham came out of Shem. Isaac came out of Shem. David came out of Shem. And Yeshua came out of Shem. Okay, so he is of the lineage and the stock of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, which means that he's a Shemite, which you like to call a Semite today. Okay, so these 2 brothers were brothers, and their offspring were cousins, and so forth and so on, with Noah being their grandfather. So we're looking at dark raced people, dark colored, melanated people. Ham was the progenitor of the dark races, but not the Negroes. Okay? Now, we did not write this book. Your European scholars deciphered our writing, and this is what they put in the books for you to see and for you to read. We now have the knowledge. Okay? The knowledge is right there. We didn't create the map. We did not write this book, but we have deciphered the knowledge from your books and from your maps, and I'm showing it to you now. So don't get mad at me because we now know who we are. Don't get mad at me because I now know who I am. Okay? I'm just showing it to you, and I hope that you're wise enough to just follow along and just get with the program. Okay, that's not the one I want to see. I want to talk about that one later. Okay, let me see. Oh, I want to be over here. I want to be over here. I see it now. I haven't named those pages, but we're going to. All right, so back to Matthew. Let's get back in here. Matthew 24, and we're going to look at something here. Okay, because with Venta Sky, we're looking at what's going on in the world today. Okay, so and Yeshua went out, and that's the reason why I had to take that long way around, because so you can understand that we were talking about Yeshua and not the Roman Catholic version of the Jesus that everybody's been given, including me. Okay, they gave us that same Jesus, but that's not who we're talking about right here. Okay, we're talking about somebody completely else and different. So that's why I had to lay that groundwork before we got here. So Yeshua went out and departed from the temple. Notice it says he departed from the temple and not the church, because there was no church during his time. Okay, he lived his life and he studied Torah, which is the first 5 books of Moses, and the Tanakh. So he had the law and the prophets. When you read the stories, even in the New Testament, you'll see the story of the rich man and Lazarus, and Lazarus ended up dying, and the rich man asked Abraham to send Lazarus back to his brothers to convince them not to go the way that he went and end up where he ended up. And Abraham said to the rich man across the chasm, he said, they have the law and the prophets. So if they won't believe them, why would they believe a man who came back from the dead? So Abraham spoke right then. They have the law and the prophets. That was a story in the New Testament, the law and the prophets. Yeshua said, I came not to abolish the law, but to fulfill it. Okay? So I'm saying that to say to you is that there was no New Testament during the time that he was walking the earth. There was no such book called Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John during the time that he was walking the earth. There were no churches at the time that he was walking the earth. There were synagogues and there was temples. Okay? So I want to lay that groundwork. You have to understand that this is a Hebrew book written to Hebrews and not to Gentiles, and certainly not to Christians. Christianity was not even on the scene at the time. Christianity did not come until about 300 years later. The Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John books didn't come until about 300 years later, perpetrated by the Roman Catholic Church. So Yeshua went out of the temple, departed from the temple, and his disciples, who were Hebrews, came to him, and they showed him the buildings of the temple, and they said, look how beautiful they are. Look at these beautiful temples. And he turned around and said to them, he says, don't you see all these things? Pointing at the temple, see ye not all these things? Surely, as that's what verily means, is surely. I say unto you, there shall not here be one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. In other words, in the last days, this whole temple is going to be made to shreds. It's going to be thrown down. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, well, if it's going to be all broken up and thrown down, tell us when these things are going to happen. And that's what they're saying right there. Tell us when these things shall be. Okay? And what's going to be the sign of your coming and of the end of the world? What world were they talking about? The world rule under which they were living at that particular time. Okay, because they thought that when he came, he was going to reestablish Jerusalem as a kingdom again. But that wasn't the case. And then he said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. First thing out of his mouth. Take heed that no man deceive you. He said, for many shall come in my name, saying I am the Christ, and shall deceive many. So there's going to be a lot of people coming along, and they're going to agree that he is the Christ, but their interpretation of the word is still going to deceive many people. He says, and you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. Now, those of you who have studied with me for a while, we've been down this road before, but I'm going to reiterate it because there just may be some new people who don't know these things. Wars and rumors of wars. You can go back and watch the other video if you have not had this teaching. Wars and rumors of wars. Okay, so we see in grammatical text we have colons and semicolons and commas and apostrophes, and all these things mean something. Okay, when you get to them, you're still the context might be changing, but you're still talking about the same subject matter. Okay, so you see wars and rumors of wars, but see that you not be troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Okay, so you're going to hear about wars, but don't let it bother you. These things have to happen. Don't worry about that. He says, for nation shall rise against nation. Okay, so we're going to jump over to the eSword, and we're going to look at some things over here. Okay, so Matthew 24. We're going to let me change it back to regular. I get it out of the King James, and let's get over into the with the Strong's Concordance so we can see what's going on. Okay, so he sat down on the Mount of Olives. Let me get back up to the scripture. He said, you're going to hear wars and rumors of war. Here we go, Matthew 24:7. Okay, he said, nation. I'm just going to bring the Strong's Concordance online here. We're going to look and see what nation is. Okay, and so nation It's from the Greek G 1486. G means Greek, H means Hebrew, and it says right there, a race. Okay, and that's not a foot race either. That is a tribe. In other words, explaining that is, or more specifically, a tribe, specifically a foreign non-Jewish. Well, there was no J, so there was no Jew, so that means non-Hebrew. One usually by implication pagan, because Hebrews are not pagans. Okay, a Gentile, heathen, nation of people. Okay, so we're not talking about a country when we read, for nation shall rise against nation. So let me make it more plain for you. Okay, when you see something that says nation shall rise against nation, more specifically, what you're talking about is the fact that you're going to have whites against blacks, against Hispanics, against Japanese, against Israelis, against. So now we have a country that has some Muslims in it, and so that means that there's going to be more of race riots occurring when you have nation against nation. This is what he's talking about. We just saw the definition is talking specifically about ethnicities of people. Okay, so we want to look at that when we see these things. Okay, so now let's look at this a little bit more closely. Now you see that says ethnos, right? That's where we get our word ethnicity from. Okay, it's a Greek word. It says ethnos. That's where ethnicity comes from. Nation is ethnicity. It's ethnics. Okay, that's where that comes from. Probably it says a Greek word, a race. It's ethnos, ethnicity. So you're going to have various different ethnic races against each other during this time. This is what it's talking about. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. Okay, so let's look at kingdom. Okay, kingdom is basilia, right? This is Greek 935, properly royalty. That is, in abstract, rule, or concretely, a realm. Okay, a kingdom is a realm. Okay, so now we're talking about countries, the king's dominion. The king's dominion is a place where the king rules from, and wherever the king rules from, that is his dominion. Okay, so whenever you see a situation where there's one nation against another nation and a kingdom against another kingdom, first thing you see is that's a civil war happening within that particular king's realm, that king's dominion. So if you look at the United States, for instance, we are to be looking for the fact that there will be civil unrest against the various different ethnicities inside of the realm of the king. Now, since we don't have a king, we have a president. This is the things that we're going to see in the United States. But now, if you were to look at London, England, where they have a queen and they have a parliament, then you'll see civil unrest inside of that king's realm. If you look inside of, let's say, Iraq or Iran, where whatever dictator they have there, or whatever king they have there, the Shah or whoever's the power, you will see that there will be various different levels of unrest among the different ethnic groups there, whether it's Sunni or Shiite or whatever. We hear that all the time. They call that civil unrest amongst the ethnic groups there. They talk about it all the time in your news, right? When there was the Kurds fighting I forget who that was, some years back, and they had ethnic cleansing going on. This is what we're talking about. That's nation against nation happening inside of that king's realm. Okay, so I hope this is becoming very clear to you. I want you to get this for real, because this is how we understand what the scriptures are saying. Okay, and then it says that there shall be famines. Okay, we know what a famine is. A famine is a famine for bread, which is food. The famine is a Greek word, limos. Okay, Greek 3007, through the idea of destitution. Okay, are we not seeing that like what in Venezuela right now? Venezuela it's costing what they're paying, what, $100 for a loaf of bread, $200 for a loaf of bread. Something in the scripture I remember being said that you can have a wheelbarrow full of money just to get a portion of wheat. Okay, and it says right there that it's the destitution is a scarcity of food, death, famine, and hunger. Okay, limos, the Greek word, right? So then we go up here and we see and pestilences. It's the Greek word 3061. As we look at this Greek word, it's lemos or loimos. It says it's of an uncertain affinity, but it's a plague, literally a disease, figuratively a pest, a pestilence, right? But what is a pest when you have a disease in your body? I was talking to my little niece the other day, and she made a comment to me. She said, yeah, me and my mom were talking about it, and my mom said that about 80% of the people in the United States have herpes. Okay, we were talking about that, and she made that comment to me, and I was amazed that she even knew the statistic, you know. So I was like, wow, I didn't even comment on it. I was just to myself, I was amazed that she even knew the statistic that 80% of the people had herpes. So see what this says to me is this, okay? This is what this says to me. And some of you probably remember when this was occurring. Remember when AIDS was the epidemic? Remember when they were talking about all these people who were infected and people were dying off and dying rapidly from AIDS? That was a pestilence, okay? And then we had the herpes and we had the AIDS, and then what came next? Um, um, they had the Ebola outbreak in Africa. And remember how they scrambled when it came to the United States? One or two people showed up over here with Ebola, and man, they scrambled to shut that down. Okay, that's a pestilence. So when we look at things like that, we've got a famine, where we got nation against nation first, kingdom against kingdom, we got ethnicities against each other. Then we have kings' realms and countries against each other. Then we have famines, right? A lack of food, and then we have pestilences. Okay, so these are things that they're all right there in Scripture. We can see these things; they're right there in Scripture, and this is what's being taught. Okay, so then there's earthquakes. Whoa, earthquakes! This is a Greek word, 4578, and it's seismos. It's where we get our word seismic. Look, it's right there. Seismos is where we get our word seismic activity. This is what the USGS is talking about. They've got little markers everywhere. They track seismic activity. Okay, and so then says it's a commotion, that is, of the air, a gale, of the ground, an earthquake. So an earthquake or a tempest. So you got a storm. A storm is a gale. Okay, now you youngsters don't know this, but people who are a little older, we know that when they talked about a gale, a Gay, we knew a Gale, we knew that they were talking about like a hurricane or something. We use the word a tempest. Okay, these are words that you youngsters don't know because they don't use these words anymore. But those of anybody who's right now 50 or older, you know this term. You've heard this term because your parents and your grandparents used it. My parents and my grandparents used it. Okay, so we know this term. Tempest. They used to sing about the tempest in the churches, right? When we were little growing up, in this false religion of Christianity, they sang about that. Okay, so they knew about a gale, right, which were storms and things like that. All right, so a commotion and an earthquake. So I think the earth makes a commotion when it starts shaking and moving. Okay, so then we have, look at this now. So now we have ethnicity against ethnicity. We have king's dominion against king's dominions. Then they said there's going to be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. Okay, now is that it? Are we not having that today, guys? I mean, really, are we not having any of this today? Is any of this going on? Okay, I want you to pull up Ventusky. V is in Victor, ENTU, T is in Tom, U, SKY, S is in Sam, KY, ventusky.com. Pull it up, look at it, and pull the screen out, zoom out, and look at all 6 storms that are cruising, 3 in the Atlantic and 3 in the Pacific. Okay, 3 in the Atlantic and 3 in the Pacific. I was just having the study with a family member and just going over this to the point where I wasn't even going to do this study tonight, but I said, you know what? Since Israel went to sleep, I need to go and put this out in front of Israel and the rest of the family that wants to listen and get this information. Okay, so then we see in Mark 13. Let's take a look at Mark 13. We'll go to Mark 13 and we'll just look at verse 1. And in verse 1, because we've already broken it down, we don't have to do that. But look at this. This is Yeshua talking about the destruction of the temple. But I'm starting there because he goes into everything else from looking at the destruction of the temple. That the temple, not the church, right, is going to be thrown down. Now, the throwing down of this, later when you get into the scripture later on, he talks about what's going to happen. And what happened was, right here in these same scriptures, if you read Matthew 24, Mark 13, and Luke 21, you will see what happened in 70 AD when Titus and Vespasian came through. This right here is where they sacked Jerusalem and ran everybody out. He says in the scriptures that when you see these things happening, get out of the city. Don't go back and take anything out of your house. Don't grab, just get out of the city. Get into the mountains and pray that your flight not be in winter. He says, woe to those that give suck. In other words, you have a baby and your baby is on the titty, right? Now you're running with your baby and your baby's on the titty because, see, those babies will cry. Those babies will start to cry, and those Romans are going to hear you and know where you are when you're hiding. And they did not care if you were pregnant. They didn't care if you had a baby. They didn't care if you were old. They didn't care if you were young, dog, cat, fish, bird, whatever. They killed everything. Okay? And if you didn't get out of the city, you were going to die. And that's why they ran in 70 AD and ended up on the west coast of Africa to become the kingdom of Judah that was hiding out on the west coast of Africa in order for them to save their lives and be in a position where they were not going to die running from the Romans. That's how the kingdom of Judah, or Waida, ended up being there. And because they were there, after they ran from Titus and Vespasian, they continued in their old ways. And their old ways is what got them turned into slaves because they were worshiping strange gods. And they were told not to go after any other god and to stay on point with their Tanakh and their Torah. And you can best believe when they got amongst these Africans over here, not only had they brought strange gods with them, but they started to participate with these people here and their strange gods who had Dogon and everyone else. Okay, and that is what got them led into captivity because they committed spiritual adultery. You can read the story for yourself. I'm not going to go into that. I'm simply showing you who they were and where they were when they went into captivity. The kingdom of Judah ended up on the west coast of Africa, and they became the slaves. The people you see today, the so-called Negro in the United States of America, are the Hebrews, the people of the book. Whether you like it or not, I do not care. That is the truth. Now, we're going to go back over here and look at this some more. So he sat upon the Mount of Olives in Mark 13:3, and over against the temple. Now, against the temple simply means that he was nearby. Okay, and Peter, who was there, Cephas, Yamez, Johannes or John, and Andrew came to him privately. So those four came to him away from everyone else, right? And they said, tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign when all these things shall be fulfilled? And what did he do? He answered them, he began to say, take heed lest any man deceive you. In other words, don't get your head bumped by the lies that these other people are going to tell about this situation. Many are going to say that I am the Christ, and they're going to deceive many. No one yet has denied the fact that Yeshua was the Christ, right? But what they have done is that they've twisted the interpretation of the scriptures, and that's how people are deceived. He said, when you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, be ye not troubled, for such things must needs be, but the end shall not be yet. We talked about that. Okay, for nation shall rise against nation. We went through that. Take heed to yourselves, for they shall deliver you up to councils and in the synagogues, and you shall be beaten, and you shall be brought before rulers and kings for my sake, for a testimony against them. And the gospel must first be published among all nations. What nations? all ethnic groups. Okay, all ethnic groups. And when they shall lead you and deliver you up, take no thought beforehand what you shall speak. Okay, you can read the story for yourself. Let's look at Luke 21. Let's see, Luke 21. Let's go over here to Luke. I was going to use the other Bible, but we'll stay with this one. Okay, this is the e-sword. This is the one I tell you guys I use the most because it has a lot of study notes in it. You see, I have various different dictionaries and things down here. Fawcett's, Hawker's, Hitchcock's. I have the International Standard Bible Encyclopedia. I have the Nave's Topical Reference. Then we also have Robinson's Morphological Analysis Code. You probably won't be looking at things the way I look at them. The Smith's Bible Dictionary. We have the Torrey New Topical Textbook. There's the Webster's. A lot of people know Webster was a believer, and he started his dictionary off of the scriptures. There's the Brown's, Driver, and Briggs Hebrew definitions. Here's the King James Concordance. I'm in the Strong's right now, the digital version. I suggest you have the book and use it. Here's the Thayer's Greek definitions. Here's the Encyclopedia of Biblical and Theological and Ecclesiastical Literature. I also have Easton's book in here, and Easton's, Easton's is the Bible Dictionary. Now, up at the top is E.W. Bullinger. You'll see that that is the companion Bible, the one I held up to you, the green one. This here has all of the appendices that are in the back of the companion. So if I'm looking through here, I'll get all the appendices which are in the back of the book. And one of these days, I'll show you something. When we study the stars also, I'll be using that. And hopefully I'll have that, that desktop camera for the book when we get ready to do that. This is Meyer. This is the Bible Day by Day by F.B. Meyer if you're looking for a good devotional. Here's the Net Bible, which is a different Bible, but one in more plain English. And I don't have my Hebrew. Um, um, I have another Hebrew Bible that for some reason, when I did the upload with this eSword, it won't let that one play again. I have to figure out how to get that up. Here's the Treasury of Scriptural Knowledge. Okay, and then there's various different other graphical books and things like that. Even NASA and the CIA has something they've contributed to this work, which is quite interesting to me. And one day we'll look at that. So Luke 21 and 5, and as some spake of the temple, how it was adorned with goodly stones and gifts. Right? So in other words, it was well dressed. It had a very beautiful look to it. It had nice stones and probably some precious stones and various different things up in it. And Messiah said, as for these things which you behold, behold means look. As for these things which you see or which you look upon, the days will come in which there shall not be one stone upon another, that it shall not be thrown down. Okay, so that actually happened. Okay, and a lot of people are not sure that it did happen. I can tell you this, that it did happen, and the evidence of it is there today, now, and if you go looking for it, you can see it. Now, I am going to show you that the temple was thrown down. Okay, and if you, when we talk about Asherah, who is who leads the pilgrimage to Zion, my brother, who, if you look at him on Facebook, um, Hausha Amarel and his family, actual Levitical priest, who in this day his family um, are and still actual Levitical priests, and they have located and had located the actual city of David. And when they located the city of David, he went to Israel, the country of Israel, and told them that what he had found and what he had known, because his family still has the scrolls. And when he went to them, they did not want to hear what it was that he had and what he was doing. So when he actually, they asked him to prove who he was, and he broke out the scrolls. And his next question was, well, I just proved who I was. Now let's see you prove who you are. Now, here is an excavation site in what they claim to be the city of David. Okay. But this is not where it is. This is what they claim to be the city of David. Okay. Because what we're talking about is in Tel Arad. Okay. Now, this is what Google will show you when you want to pull it up. But I'm going to show you where it actually is. And give me just a second because I'm going to get it on the screen and let you see it. Okay. Uh, Here it is right here. Actually, I'm going to bring him on the screen and let me find his here it is. I'm going to find some of his photos. Here we go. He's actually talking about the moon there. Okay. So let me get this. And I'm going to show you because it's in Tel Arad. Okay. It's in Tel Arad, and if you look up Tel Arad on your Google map, you'll actually see it. And so I'm just going to grab this little picture here, and then later on, if you want to see it for yourself, then you'll be able to see it for yourself. But let me see if this will come up. No, it's not coming up. That's not coming up. Let me do it a different way. So I'll try to get it for you. I'm gonna try to do it a different way. Let me see what I can. I'm trying to pull up one of his photos so that you can see this. Well, let me do it this way. Let me see if I can get it this way. Never, every time you're looking for something, it never wants to come up the proper way. Here it is. Now let me see if I can. All right, there's the photo. Let me see if I'm gonna try to get this up for you, family, so I can show it to you because I want you to see the brothers, okay, who are over in the land right now walking it out. And this is the actual spot. This is the actual place. And you know, my sister went to Israel, and I had asked her about it. And okay, now let me see if I can get the brothers up for you real quick. So I asked her about it, and she wasn't able to tell me because she said she didn't remember. Okay, but here's the brothers. Okay, and you can, and I'm showing you their page because I want you to see who they are and what's going on. In the upper right hand corner, that is the real city of Jerusalem, right? And in the background here behind them, that is not. I mean, that is the real city of Jerusalem. Okay. And as we scroll through the pictures, see that hill back there? That hill, that is the actual Mount Zion. Okay. Now, where you go in Jerusalem today is simply a tourist attraction. It's a tourist trap. We're looking at right here. This is Mount Zion. This is the temple that was thrown down. Okay. Now, it doesn't look like anything it used to look like because you know, Messiah said that you won't find a stone on top of each other. They had to dig this out of the dirt. Okay. When Joshua showed up in the land as a Levitical priest, this is him here. When that little video, see him right, that's him right there with the black hat on. They got the little video sign on his head. That's him right there. And when he showed up in the land, this whole thing that you see down here where it says Seek Zion, that was all under dirt. It was, you didn't even see it. Look on the hill right there. You couldn't even see that. That was all under the dirt. When soon as he stepped back in the land, it started to rain, and the rain started to wash away the mud. And they were digging in that area. The archaeologists were already digging in that area, but they weren't finding anything. They didn't know where to look or what they were looking for. Now, he is a Levitical priest. These are the Obara people. Those are the Obara Benai people. Okay, this is Kenyon standing right here with the white vest on and the black mitre or the mitre on his head right here. Third from the right. Okay, standing there with the big walking stick in his hand. Okay, that's Kenyon. That's Ashira. He's the one who does the pilgrimage to Zion. He's the one that has brought this truth to us to help us understand who we are so we can get it together and go home. Okay, so these are the brothers who are in the land right now walking it out. And when people see them walking around, they know who they are. They know that the Obara people are waking up and starting to come home. Okay, and they're thankful, and the Arabs are telling them, man, we've been waiting. We've been waiting. You know, you guys are waking up. We've been waiting. Where are the rest of you coming? See, they think that it's going to be a grand awakening, that everybody in America is going to wake up, and that all the Negroes in America are going to figure it out, and that we're all going to get it together and then start going home and start calling on our God. Okay, here's the thing: they're not going to. It's not meant for that. It's only meant for a few, a remnant. Okay, now we're supposed to tell everybody, we're supposed to take it and tell everybody. We're supposed to publish this thing from the rooftops. We're supposed to talk about it from hill to dale, right? But just because we're publishing it doesn't mean that everybody's going to hear it and they're going to adhere to it and go. But our job is to tell it in every nation. See, he said when this gospel is published among every nation, right? That's when the end's going to come. So we're publishing the gospel now, right? Among every nation, everywhere that we're scattered, okay? Because we're a scattered people, okay? So I did this yesterday, and let me show you that. See, when Christ was on the scene, we were already scattered people. They were already scattered, okay? So people don't think that we were already scattered, but see, before Christ even came on the scene, Israel, there was two different parts of the kingdom, the northern tribe and the southern tribe. In the north, you had 10 tribes, and in the south, you had two. You had Judah and Benjamin. Okay, so here it is in Ezekiel. The northern tribe was already gone. It came to pass in the 13th year, in the 4th month, in the 5th day of the month, and I was among the captives. I was among the captives by the river of Chebar, that the heavens were open, and I saw visions of God. So Ezekiel was already in captivity. Okay, when this occurred, right? When Christ came on the scene, the 10 tribes were gone. They were already in captivity. So there was nobody left in Israel except that lower portion, which is Judah or Judea, and there was only the Hebrews, Judah, and the tribe of Benjamin. So when you read Paul, Paul was jammed up, and the Roman soldiers had to get him and save his life, and they thought he was an Egyptian. And Paul said, "No, I'm a Benjamite. I'm born in Rome, but I'm tribe of Benjamin, from no mean city. I mean, my city is noted. It's a notable city. I'm not from some little country town. I'm a Roman. I'm a Benjamite." So this was what the teaching was. And so just like Yeshua said here a moment ago in his word, is that this has to be published among all nations. So here we go. I'm doing my part. I'm showing you that this is who we are and what it's about and what we're supposed to be doing. What we're supposed to be doing is publishing this from the housetops. Okay? So here's the brothers, Pilgrimage to Zion. You can find them on Facebook. You can find this information is out there. You can find it. It's right there. You don't have to believe what I'm saying. It's right there. You can go watch the videos. You can go see the story. You can see that Joshua is a Levitical priest with his scrolls. His family still had the scrolls. Now, the same way they found the Dead Sea Scrolls. Okay, so if you don't believe that we had scrolls, then what are the Dead Sea Scrolls? Okay, they found the Dead Sea Scrolls. They found the Masoretic footnotes with the Dead Sea Scrolls. All the books that we have of the Apocrypha were right there with them. Maccabees, Tobit, Esdras, 1st and 2nd Esdras, 1st and 2nd Maccabees, Tobit, the rest of Esther, because there's parts of Esther that's missing. The rest of Esther is there. If you've seen the movie 300, then you've seen the rest of Esther. They put it in a story, but they had you looking at it from the Spartans' point of view instead of now Ahasuerus in scripture is Artaxerxes. Okay, so in the movie you see Artaxerxes coming to fight with the Spartans, but when you read the story in scriptures, it's Ahasuerus. It's the same guy. It's the same exact guy. Okay, so you can look at this from whatever lens you want to look at it from, but the bottom line is that history does line up. If you do the research, you can find it. Esther was among the captives of the Medes and the Persians, and Ahasuerus took her to be his wife. And so he went off on a military campaign. And when he went off on that military campaign, he went to fight against the Spartans, who were part of the Greeks. So when you hear the story of 300, the movie that you're watching is being told from the standpoint of the Spartans going to defend their country in this little gorge against the Medo-Persian king who's coming to conquer them. So you're looking at that story from the lens of the Spartans, and they call his name Artaxerxes. But Artaxerxes is Ahasuerus in the scriptures. It's the same story being told to you from a different perspective. You're looking at it from the Spartan perspective. Why would you show it to us from the Spartan perspective? Because you want that European look. You want it to look like the Europeans were fighting for their lives. Okay? That there's this 300 who was going against this bully king who was no, that was not what was going on. That's what they told you, and that's what the movie put on you. But that's not what was going on. You have to read the story and see what's going on. Read the rest of Esther, and then you'll know. So these things have to be told from the rooftops. This is the stuff that needs to be published throughout all the nations in order for this end to come. And there's only going to be a remnant that ends up going in the first place. But everybody has to be told. Every nation, every European, every Hebrew, every Amorite, every Horite, every Jebusite, everybody else who's out there. Okay. So again, I'm going to put this out there for you again. You need to understand who we are and what's going on. We are the people of the book. Now is the time. We are living in those days. Your days, I'm sorry, but your days, your rule is coming to an end. Okay. Now, it may not happen in my lifetime, but we are in those days. When he said, this thing must happen, that thing must happen, but it's not the end yet, but we're coming to that end. This is it. This is the time. We are in those days. When we see these destruction that is coming, wars and rumors of wars, nation against nation, when the moon turns red, when the sun gets blotted out, when there's famines and earthquakes, this is it, baby. When there's fires and all these things, these are the things that are being poured out. Let me tell you, the sixth seal, one day we're going to do a study on the seals, and you're going to see that the sixth seal has already been broken. 6 comes before 7. When we get to 7, that's the end of it. Okay. Now these things are in chronological order as far as the seals and the cups and the bowls and things are being broken and being poured out. The way you know that the 6th seal has occurred is that in the scriptures it says that the river Euphrates will dry up. Okay. Well, guess what? The Euphrates River is dry, y'all. That means that the 6th seal has already been broken. So 6 comes before 7. In order for the armies to come and take over the Middle East the way that they want to, they have to cross over the Euphrates River. And the Euphrates River is the only way in. That's the highway. And it's already dry. Okay? So it dried up. So Iraq and Turkey said, so the scriptures tell you that the Euphrates River is going to dry up. It just doesn't tell you how. Okay? Well, what happened was that Iraq and Turkey have the headwaters. So they built dams. And when they built dams, all the people who lived downstream lost their water. They dammed up the river, and then the river went dry because they have a dam, they have all the water, so everything downstream is dry. The Euphrates River is dry, you guys. It's dry. And because it's dry, when the attack happens, they can now cross that river, no problem. Iraq said, we're not going to undam it. That's our water. We got the headwaters. We're going to keep it. Turkey said, we're not going to undam ours. We've got the headwaters. We're going to keep it. See, there's rivers that flow into the Euphrates. So if Turkey dams up their river that flows into the Euphrates, and Iraq doesn't dam up theirs, there's still going to be some water in there. It won't be as much, but it's going to be some water. But they both dammed up their rivers. So when both the headwaters are dammed up, the Euphrates itself goes dry. So there you have it. The 6th seal, has already been broken. The Euphrates River is dry, and it has been dry for like the last few years. Look it up. Go look it up. Read the story for yourself. We're there. This is the time. This is the place. Okay, so I hope you got something out of that. I really do. We'll come back with some more news, some more interesting things as we wait for our Messiah to come and start to regulate on this planet, because there's going to be some regulations going on. People think that this is going to go on forever. They think that they're going to have this rule forever. No, you're not going to have this rule forever. And I'm talking about those Europeans, those Caucasians who think that they're in power and they're going to stay in power. You're not, because our Messiah is coming and he's about to shake everything you've ever believed in. Okay. We're going to talk about some other things, like before those things occur, that there's going to be some fake news going on because, hey, Ronald Reagan said, what if? All right. So if you know what I'm talking about, then, you know, you can go off of that. If not, then wait for it, because I'm going to come with it and I'm going to show you Ronald Reagan saying, what if? And then I'm going to show you what that what if is, because he said it in the UN, and everybody he said it to knew what he was talking about. Okay. And they are steadily getting us ready for it. So much so that even the Pope said, what if? Okay. So now think about that one. The Pope said, yeah, what if? Because the Pope is down with it. Okay. So I want to say thank you for hanging out. We got a light in here tonight, so that helped put some more light on me so you can kind of see me. I don't have enough. I think I'm going to have to get a light that shines from the bottom to come up and see if we can go with it that way. But in the meantime, in between time, thank you so much, family. Mishpachah, I do appreciate, Mishpachah means family. I do appreciate you hanging out with me. And we're going to move from here, and that's going to be it. And I hope you guys have a great night. Do have a great night, and we'll see you again next time.